Hello, and thank you for watching. At Simulation Training Systems, our programs are highly interactive, facilitator-led, experiential training programs. Today we'll be covering StarPower, one of the most popular simulations of all time. It focuses on leadership and the use and abuse of power. We offer two versions of StarPower, the original classroom version and a new virtual live online version. We'll start out at the ground level, explaining the why behind the origin of StarPower, the importance of the simulation, and how it's used in organizations and classrooms across the world. We'll then take you through how the simulation is facilitated, and we'll finish with a number of outcomes that we've seen StarPower produce. Power is a taboo topic for most people, yet it profoundly affects the way we do business, manage organizations, and interact in society. In StarPower, participants earn their place in a simulated society or organization by the decisions they make through trading, negotiation, and collaboration. The system is set up to have the rich get richer, and in the end, the rich make the rules. StarPower is so effective because it creates an engaging, memorable environment that fosters teachable moments that are not likely gained from lectures. Participants gain insight about how power affects individuals in the workplace and in society. The experience acts as a jumping-off spot to considering the use and abuse of power in a new way. In StarPower, the dynamics of power play out in numerous ways which can be discussed and applied to real-life situations. The experience puts participants under pressure, but in a memorable, engaging, and safe environment. In StarPower, participants experience how power, or lack of power, can profoundly impact people and/or organizations. They examine how easily power can corrupt and how disenfranchisement feels and manifests itself. The experience motivates participants to rethink their behavior and attitude towards others. It allows participants to examine their own bias and focus on how they perceive the use and abuse of power. StarPower initiates immediate, personal change and makes participants personally aware of the issues around power, powerlessness, or diversity. Here are a few of the common topics or themes highlighted when StarPower is being used in training programs and classrooms. Topics such as use and abuse of power, diversity, inclusion, racism, class and privilege, leadership, and much more. Next, we will go through a high-level explanation of how StarPower is facilitated to instill the why through the simulation. Most simulations are divided into two sections, the simulation proper and a session analyzing the results. Conscious learning occurs primarily during the analysis session. Learning is sidetracked, however, whenever trainees disavow responsibility for their behavior during the simulation. If they can claim that they did what they did only because the simulation suggested or encouraged that action, their motivation to learn from the experience evaporates. StarPower is designed to remove these escape hatches and have participants take responsibility for their actions. StarPower is often used in two different settings. The first is a way to simulate an organization with a three-level top-down structure. The second way is to simulate a three-tiered society, which consists of a top, middle, and lower class. When simulating an organization with a three-level top-down structure, it's often used for an array of leadership and management training programs. EEO training, the impact of use and abuse of power, and to improve motivation and behavior, and much, much more. When simulating a three-tiered society, it's used for an array of diversity, inclusion, social justice, cultural competency, power and influence, and change management programs, and much more. Here's an overview of what happens during the simulation. In StarPower, participants are challenged to progress from one level of society to another by acquiring wealth through trading with others. The first two rounds are very sociable. People are laughing, talking, and having a good time exchanging chips. However, the system is set up to make the rich get richer, and they are given the power to make the rules. Ultimately, they make the rules to keep their power and influence. Barriers spring up between the various levels of society. Communication gets strained. The group that has the power often tries to protect their power through illegitimate means. The others respond by giving up, organizing, or overthrowing the power group. After the simulation winds down, participants discuss power in safe yet revealing ways. To start, each participant will randomly draw 5 chips. There are 5 different colors of chips, each with a separate value. Once participants have taken a look at their chips, they have the opportunity to try to increase their point total by trading with others. Participants trade with one person at a time in an attempt to increase their point total. The rules are set up in such a way that each participant could increase or decrease their score. It's up to them to decide if entering into a trade is worth the risk. It is against the rules to quit a trade just because the offers are not good. Once they start a trade, they must finish the trade, and it must be of unequal valued chips. Based on point totals, the group is divided into 3 groups of equal size. The top third of the group becomes a member of the squares. The middle third of the group becomes a member of the circles. The bottom third of the group becomes a member of the triangles. Each group then holds their own bonus point bargaining session, where extra points can be negotiated. The number of people in each group remains the same throughout the simulation. The bonus session determines the final scores for each participant for each round. Therefore, if a participant from a lower group is able to negotiate enough points to overtake a person from a group above them, they are promoted. Simultaneously, the participant they overtook is demoted to a lower group. The first round ends after promotions and demotions are announced. From this point forward, the top group has access to more resources in the form of more valuable chips. There is then a second round, just like the first round. However, this round, the squares have access to all the valuable chips. This round includes an individual trading session, a group bonus point bargaining session, and individual promotions and demotions. Each group has a different response to their position. At this time, the top group is receiving special treatment. They are empowered. The middle group are trying to move up. They are still hopeful, but they know they are at a disadvantage. And the bottom group is very far behind. They are losing hope and may even feel like dropping out or organizing or even cheating to move up. Because of how the system is set up, the gap between the groups grows rapidly. The top group get many more points, and the other two groups are left further and further behind. At the end of round two, after trading, bonus points bargaining session, and promotions and demotions, it is announced to everyone that since the squares have performed so much better than everyone else, they have earned the privilege of making the rules of the simulation. Each of the lower two groups can propose rule changes. The squares, the top group, do not have to adopt any of these suggestions. Inevitably, the squares, the top group, don't adopt the rules proposed by the lower groups. They generally make rules which maintain or increase their power, and which those being governed consider it to be unfair. This generally results in some sort of rebellion by the other members of society. After the rules have been announced and absorbed, it's time to discuss this experience. The director's guide includes a series of questions designed to explore this experience. Lastly, we will discuss the outcomes that we have seen through organizations running StarPower. The individual experience. Participants experience how power or lack of power can profoundly impact people and or organizations. It motivates participants to rethink their behavior and attitude towards others. It allows participants to examine their own bias and focus on how they perceive the use and abuse of power. It examines how easily power can corrupt and how disenfranchisement feels and manifests itself. It initiates immediate personal change and makes participants personally aware of the issues around power, powerlessness, or diversity. Here are some of the outcomes of the experience. Few people are likely to participate in an endeavor if they feel powerless. Each of us may be more vulnerable to the temptation to abuse power than we realize. To change behavior, it may be necessary to change the system in which that behavior occurs. If rules do not have legitimacy, they will not be obeyed. Under what conditions is it possible to make unfair rules and have people obey them? Is it worth the price? Are people justified in disobeying unjust rules? Always? What seems fair to those in power is not likely to seem fair to those who are out of power. Persons who are promoted rarely remember those they leave behind. On one instance, a chief financial officer was relegated to the triangle table. He was adamant that he had never been mistreated like this in his life. He stated, "For the first time, I understand my privilege, and to have that privilege taken away felt like cruelty." He was very vocal about it during the debriefing and very grateful for the experience. And he expressed what it felt like for the first time in his life to have somebody tell him what to do and not allow him to just do what he wanted. We provide full support however you may prefer it, via email, phone, or Zoom. Our director's guides provide detailed step-by-step instructions on how to set up, run, and discuss StarPower. You can energize your curriculum without death by PowerPoint. The StarPower simulation is a memorable and effective way to teach. It's time-tested and it simply works. Each instructor has the flexibility to tailor-make the discussion questions to be considered. Our director's guide offers many different detailed and step-by-step options for discussing this simulation. Generally, however, groups need to talk about the game in personal terms of who did what to whom. Then it moves the discussion to strategies used by groups and individuals, feelings and reactions to the strategies used during the simulation, reactions to power and authority, and cooperation versus competition. The discussion then moves from personal and group behaviors to how the actions and systems mirror what happens in the real world. How behaviors displayed can affect how society or an organization functions. Then it moves to a deep dive into outcomes and changes and much more. There are two versions of StarPower. The original version, which is available as a reusable kit with everything needed to set up, run, and discuss the program for up to 36 participants at one time. And we now have the new virtual live online version. It's designed to be used with up to 45 participants per event. Each online event is sold separately. Thank you for watching. Be sure to connect with us to learn more or to place your order.